Welcome back to Creative Tien channel. Last week we did the pattern tracing from the clothes that fits. You can find the links in the description box below the video. And today we want to do the actual sewing, and I use a denim fabric. You can use any fabric. It usually says bottom weight in the fabric store. That's just a little bit thicker and better for the pants or skirts. And this is my fabric. It's slightly stretchy on one side. So if you have one side that's slightly stretchy, that should be the side that's around the waist. And we stretch this way horizontally. And for the casing, we fold the fabric in half and place the pattern this way. So this part will be continuous. And that's how I cut all the pieces. For the elastic, this part is folded, so that's continuous. But for the front and back, that's separate piece. Because I have the right side facing each other, so when I open it up, it's actually symmetrical. Now we can start sewing. I'm going to put the back side together first, and then front side together, and then we'll put front and back together. For the back piece, you can see the funny shape here. And we have the right side facing each other. And I'm going to sew all the way down from here. And we can refer to the chart so we don't get confused because the shape looks similar on both sides. And now we can see this is the back center. So that's a line we are going to sew here. I mark the seam allowance line with a fabric marker just to make sure I know where I'm going to sew. And I will stop about ½ inch from this side, so we have room for this seam allowance. You don't have to sew all the way through. You can stop here. Now we sew the line. You can see what it looks like. So that's the back piece. You can iron it open, and also the same on the seam allowance. Iron it open. And we'll do the same thing for the front piece. Again, I like to check the pattern first. That's the center front, so it will be like that. And we have the right side facing each other. And we'll sew a line from here all the way down here. Again, you can leave the last ½ inch without sewing, just from here to here. This is after ironing. That's the back piece. That's the outside of the back piece. And this is the front piece. The back side of the front piece. And the next we can connect this part. If we stretch out, you can see you can just sew a line to close it. But of course we want the right side facing each other. So you'll be like that. That's after we pin it. You can mark the seam allowance, or you just sew it like that. ½ inch seam allowance. And for the center part, it's better if you can just fold it down to reduce the bulk. Each seam allowance goes to a different direction, so it's more flat when we sew it. And we can go over the center part several times, so it's stronger there and it doesn't break thread easily. That's what it looks like after we sew the line and give it an iron, so the seam allowance is flat. And this is the line we just sew. And now you can see we are very close to finishing it. Next, I'm going to sew the hand. So I fold in about ½ inch or 3/8 of an inch first and iron it, and then fold another inch up like that. That's after the pinning. Or we can sew one line or two lines all the way across, and this side too. After sewing, I give an iron, And you can see I saw a double line, so it looks more professional. And I decided to add a pocket in the back, so I just sketch up a shape and add seam allowance. I only need a little bit, around 3/8 of inch for the bottom side, and on the top 3/4 of inch. There are many ways to sew a pocket. I'm trying to keep it very simple, so I cut out 2 pieces of fabric. One is for the outside and one is for the lining. I'm just going to have the right side facing each other and sew the outline first. I'm going to sew the 3 sides first and then flip it inside out. Now I sew the 3 sides. You can see the sewing line, and I clip it around the curve area so it's easier to turn it inside out. And then we will just turn it inside out and we can iron it before we do the next step. Now we iron it. This is the back side, and I fold the edges down about 3/4 of an inch, or you can have it 1/2 inch. And the next I'm just going to sew 2 lines here to close the opening and finish our pocket. Now I sew the 2 lines. This is the back side. You can use either side for your pocket, and you just sew a line on the 3 sides and leave the opening. And when you position the pocket, make sure it's a little bit farther away from the edges because we still have to finish the edges. Now I sew the pocket to the back side. You can see the lining. And then the next thing, we just have to connect the sides. And again, we want to do it right side facing each other. So we just turn it the other way. It'll be like that. And line up the edge, pin it, and sew it. So I line up the bottom and pin it. The top one, if it's not straight, it's okay. We can always trim off the fabric. And the other side is the same. Pin up, match the bottom, and then we will sew a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Now we sew the sides, we can turn it inside out. And that's the front side, the back side. The next thing, we have to sew the elastic pockets. Here is our elastic pocket piece, and the easy way is to fold the pocket first. So we will fold it in half, the right side facing each other, and sew a line. So we create a pocket first, and we will turn it inside out. You can see the sewing lines here. Now we can turn it inside out. Now I turn it inside out and give it an iron. And I'm going to start sewing this piece to the pants. I'm going to start from the back side because there will be a seam. And I'm going to overlap it, so I will start from here. I will fold it this way. I will pin it here and start all the way around. And then sew a 1/2 inch seam all the way around. And when I sew to the end, there's an extra piece, so I'm going to cut off extra, but still leave some for seam allowance. Now we can flip it over. You can see the front side, the back side. I'm going to place an elastic next. It's better to use a little bit wider elastic because we want it to be sturdy. I measure the length from the pants that fits her. This should be the final size. And I add about 1 inch so I can overlap it and sew up the elastic. So in my case, it's about 25 inches for my 11 years old. And I use a pin to one end of the elastic and thread it through the pocket. If you don't have a safety pin, you can use hair clip or just tape it to some kind of stick, and you can do the same. Before I sew up the elastic, I want to sew a line here, top stitch, so you will keep this part flat inside and it doesn't fly up. So I will just do the top stitch first, and then I will overlap the elastic and sew it up. Now I sew this line, you can see from inside, and I sew up the elastic. The only thing left is to finish this part. I'm going to fold the edges in and tuck one side into the other, and then just sew a line straight down. You can sew through the elastic. It doesn't affect the function of the elastic. Now I close this opening here for the elastic. I sew a line here and a line here to close the holes, and now we are pretty much done. You can give it an iron. And another thing you can do is to look from the inside out. We can top stitch over the seam allowance, 1 line on each side, so it stays in place. It's the same with the side here. We can sew 2 lines to keep it in place. And if you want, you can finish up the edge with a zigzag stitch, or if you have a serger, you can finish it with a serger. A zigzag stitch will be easier. It will look nicer and it will not fray easily. There are several things I might change next time, including the elastic band. Next time I will have a thicker one. It seems more sturdy. And I do want to try it in different fabric. Maybe a linen fabric for the summer. Thank you for watching today. I hope you liked the video, and talk to you next week.